Of Medicaid in the House, Kevin Blackwell from District 19, DeSoto County, Marshall counties, two of the fastest growing counties in the state. Have you seen any of the data as far as census?
As far as the census goes, yes, sir, I have.
And what does it look like up in that area?
DeSoto's grown about, I believe, close to 9%, but actually, surprisingly, Marshall County's lost a few percentage points.
Why do you think that is?
I couldn't tell you. They're starting to boom economically.
Yeah. We saw several counties where you had that transition where you have a lot of businesses moving in, but the rooftops will follow later when the businesses move in.
That's right. One of the things I was able to do this year for Marshall County was to get some bond money to build a fire and police substation up near where all the warehouses are. One, it's protection for them and for those individuals and workers, but that's also going to start bringing in rooftops up in Marshall County.
What's the status when you start looking at the Amazon plants up there?
Well, Amazon's announced their second plant in Marshall County, so apparently they like
is that up and running yet? Or
no, sir, not yet. But
that'll be three.
Got
in
a
the
good
state
workforce
of
up there.
That's amazing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Let's start off in your committee, of course, as chairman in the Senate of Medicaid. And Medicaid is a little bit like medical marijuana. You got a lot of people who are giving information on it, and it's all one-sided. If you bring up anything negative, you're either racist, you're just a diehard radical conservative because you don't want to spend money and help people out. And that's just unfortunate because people need to be open to the other side of it. There is another side of it. And you and I were sharing that off the mic a few moments ago. And that's just, is there a better way of doing this?
Don't know is a short answer to that, but we're going to try to find out this summer. Senator Bryan, who's chairman of Public Health, and I are going to hold some joint meetings, bringing folks in from I'm going to be focusing on the Medicaid aspect, and he's focusing on general health, CON issues, probably nurse practice with the nurse practitioners.
Yeah. Kevin, how much flexibility do you have on that, though? I mean, as far as federal rules and everything else.
As far as
changing the healthcare system to a point where you can do something differently.
Well, we would have to apply for waivers, and that'd probably be more of a Drew Snyder question.
Yeah.
But basically what I'd like to do is bring some folks in, folks who are for expansion, folks who are against expansion, folks who have states that have expanded, some states that haven't, and as well as our local resources.
Yesterday we had Robert Johnson on, and my point on this one is if you're going to be fiscally responsible for the office of an elected official, you have to look at what is contractual and not for what your hopes and your dreams and your feelings. And there is no guarantee that whatever the federal government offers us is going to be there for a year or 2 years or 3 years. Am I wrong or right about that?
I think you're right about that. Right now, our FMAP or our match is at about 82, a little over 82%. Or I think it's 84.2% to be precise. So the government's dangling will increase you up to 90% if you expand Medicaid. Well, what happens if they go back to our original 78%? Who's going to cover that?
So we're covering 15 cents on the dollar, 15 or 16 cents on the dollar.
All right. So who's going to cover that? Not to mention you're taking people where they want to expand it to the working poor. So if I'm right on the bubble and now I've got free health care through Medicaid and I qualify for SNAP and TANF and other benefits, why do I need to work? We're pushing people in the wrong direction.
Now, that sounds cruel, but it's not. And I always bring this up. And I think the people who are out there listening to who are paying for this, and I've always this has always gotten me because the people who are getting it never thank the people who are paying it. We are the people who are making it possible as taxpayers for you to get food, to get services, to get medical, and we're not looking for a thank you. The only thank you we want is that we want you to be better off and not needed. Join us on the part in the future of providing for those who need it. And we never do that, and it really upsets me a little bit to the point of you look at these folks who traditionally and generationally are not better after 20, 30, 40, 50 years. The family's on it and the grandkids are on it. Could that happen with 200 or 300 more thousand people when you put them on there?
I could see it easily happening. All the projections from all these other states that have expanded, in our case, they say that they would expect maybe 150,000 additional enrollees. It's more likely going to be over 300,000 that'll get added. And there's the old saying, we want to give them a hand up and not a hand out.
Right.
Unfortunately, the system keeps them suppressed. They can't get out of it. And
if you're on that
so you have
borderline,
generational.
If you got a job and you're on that borderline where you do qualify now, and barely, simply because they've expanded that, you've been making more money, but now all of a sudden you can get free, then you start putting all of these other things in there. You get an opportunity for an increase in pay or a new job somewhere, and it may not be profitable for you to take it. That sounds crazy, but it's happening by the millions right now as far as the stimulus checks.
You're absolutely correct, and that's a perfect example why, unfortunately, we're going to stop at June 12th, but people can't get people to work. You go to a restaurant nowadays, and you have to wait, and they've got tables available, but they don't have wait staff or cooks.
What is the hands across the table on this one? And again, we're talking with Kevin Blackwell, who's Senator and Chairman of Medicaid. If you're meeting with Hobb, we know what Hobb wants to do. He'd like to expand it immediately. But is there some in between there? Is there a guarantee from the government, or is there something? Because we didn't hear about the 15.8% or 16%. We always hear about it's only going to cost, they'll pay 92% or 95%. Is that true or not true?
I don't know if that's true or not true, but at some point they're going to run out of our money to spend, and that's the issue. At some point they're going to stop, and their whole game, the feds, is to have socialized medicine, and this is just another way to get that.
So if you've got a large percentage, we could have almost a third of our people of the entire population on.
We would have just about
care.
A third on Medicaid. Yes, sir.
So you guys will have a study committee or just a powwow about this coming up during the summer.
Yes, we will.
There will be some bills, I'm sure, people will introduce to expand Medicaid, but as far as the House leadership and Senate leadership doesn't, and even the governor right now, doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Not what I would say traditional expansion like the government is offering. I'd like to take a look and see how can we. Right. So right now, the latest figures I saw was 2018. So we're spending a little over about $8,300 per member. For that amount of money, I could go out and buy a policy.
That's crazy.
Private policy.
So it's averaging, and this is if you got multiple members in the household. This is not collectively. This is individually. $8,300
Correct.
In health care per member.
Correct.
How many members we have?
Right now we have 700. We have 800.
11,000.
812 altogether, and that includes the CHIP program.
It was about 200,000 on CHIP, or do we know?
765 in traditional Medicaid.
So that adds up to what?
Well, that adds up to the 812.
No, I'm talking about total amount of money spent.
So far we've spent over $4 billion this year. But on the positive side, that's $55 million less than what we spent at the same time last year.
That's not state money. That's with federal matching.
Yes, sir.
I understand where some people are coming, talking about is a job growth thing, and we could expand and we could have a lot of jobs with that. But are those numbers accurate when they're talking about that? What the economic opportunities would be?
I don't think so. I had a reporter contact me the other day and said he heard 21,000 jobs.
Yeah, 21,000 jobs?
No.
You don't think that's accurate?
I don't think it's close.
You've been in the medical business in real life.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk more with the chairman of Medicaid. It's Kevin Blackwell. That's chair of Medicaid, Kevin Blackwell. Any bills other bills you want to talk about that we're going to be looking at coming up in the 2021?
Well, from the Medicaid standpoint, there's a few things that we're going to have to correct with the technical bill. The department is taking a look at a section we did and considers it kind of handcuffing, so they're freezing payments to providers.
Yeah.
And that was not the intent of the legislature. Our intent was we did not want reimbursement reduced to providers without the legislature being notified first. So we'll address that. And I'm also going to be dropping, I've already pre-dropped a bill for postpartum care to extend it to 12 months for women.
Anything in the amount of money coming in through the stimulus that will aid in any way as far as Medicaid or anything that you deal with?
Well, not specifically Medicaid, but not my committee. But we know we just got the first check last. I think it was last week we got it, and the other one should be due. I think maybe we get the next one within a month. There are some states that have to wait 12 months. I think in our case we get it earlier. The
telemedicine bill was just one of those things that should not have been killed. What's your thought on that?
I support telemedicine, and I agree with you. It shouldn't have been killed, but you get the some of the larger insurance companies behind it or against the initiative.
Also the lobbyists. And by the way, by the time you talk to the large insurance companies and follow the tracks of the lobbyist, then you also follow the tracks of a state legislator who decided to adhere to their wishes.
Yeah, now I don't think just the audio-only aspect is good. Might be for psychiatry, something along that lines, but for basically you need to look at the patient. And so.
We don't have a lot of time. I do want to talk about the medical marijuana part and how that reacts to relates to your chairmanship as far as Medicaid's concerned. Would medical marijuana be anywhere in the Medicaid situation? Would they lose their benefits as far as if they had a card also?
No, sir. And Medicaid wouldn't be paying for, and no insurance company would be required to pay for medical marijuana, strictly out of pocket cost.
The bills are going to be forthcoming. Have you heard anything about a special session?
Not specifically, but I believe if we were to be able to draft a bill, come to agreement with both the House and Senate, I think the governor would be inclined to call a special session.
Do you think there's enough of an agreement between the House and Senate to put a bill together for a special session?
I think we can get there.
Do you really?
Yes.
Have you seen the Alabama bill?
I have.
What do you like and dislike about that?
Well, it wasn't too far off from our final version that we passed in Harper's Grace. One of the things that they limit the amount of marijuana. Well, first of all, there's no smoking of marijuana, so they have.
You think that would be put in our bill?
I think that'd be a harder sell. I think maybe vaping and I'm not sure if I'm using all the terms correctly, but. I don't think you're going to be able to get a baggie of pot and roll your own if from a smoking standpoint. But,
so in other words, you would like to see maybe vaping put in there for people who can't ingest it through a candy or a cookie?
Yes, sir.
But not smoking?
But not smoking.
But not smoking.
So the daily dosage of over in Alabama, you could have up to 60 days supply. They'll let you get up to 70 because of a crossover. But they one of the things they did was they limited the amount of THC in those products, and from an oral standpoint, you can only have one flavor. And I don't know if that's I don't know the rationale for that.
I don't either. What would be the rationale for that?
I don't know. Now, I do want to plan to have some hearings. Senator Bryan has got one scheduled for June the 3rd. I'm not sure what
it's like a town hall meetings
itinerary is going to be. But in my case, what I'd like to do is bring some folks in from the Mississippi Municipal League, the supervisors. Senator Melson over in Alabama was the author of this bill. I'd like to have him come over and listen to his explanation of why they did some of the things.
You think there is enough people in the House and Senate who are going to push these things through that would be for opt-in or opt-out? I mean, in other words, that you could opt out of it.
I think we need to give that take a look at that provision, and if there was to be an opt-out, to allow the people to have a referendum where if they wanted to opt in, they could.
But all the other minutia that goes with this, who's going to grow it, who's going to regulate that, who's going to do oversight, they did a cannabis commission.
They did a cannabis commission, yes.
Is that something that may be workable in our state?
That sounds like adding more government. I don't know about that.
Who directs then that the Department of Public Safety looks at the legal oversight, agriculture looks at the growing?
From my
the legislature
understanding,
just do that?
Yes. What I'd like to see is the Department of Ag oversee the cultivation aspects of it and have the Department of Health run the rest with contracts or agreements between Department of Safety and anybody else regulatory-wise.
Well, the other big thing is that the revenue goes to general funds.
Over in Alabama, it does. Well, 60% goes to general funds, and I think 30% goes to that commission, and then 10% to a study group. But under the bill that we passed out of the Senate last bill, we had the revenues going towards education. So we had some of the money going to early collaborative learning. We had money going to juniors and seniors who are dual enrollment, and then we had the balance going to four-year scholarships, similar to the Hope Scholarship Program up in Tennessee.
I got to tell you, I think most people in this audience, we hear about education, and just as Shad was on a few moments ago, there's $200 million savings if they were just more efficient. Number one. Number two, the number of public school students continues to decrease every single year, and the budget continues to go up. And there is a pile of money they've received from Washington, D.C. So earmarking from now through eternity, that money go to education is something that I think most people will take a look at and say maybe if they're needed, then you can do that, achieve that through the legislative process.
Yes, sir. We've had great success with our early learning collaborative, and I don't have a problem with the money going to the general fund, but usually what happens, that money goes in there and it goes in whole different directions.
Well, then fire the people who are doing that through the election process, number one. What else is going on? We're almost out of time here. What else is happening that you wanted to mention? I
really don't have anything else on my plate unless you do.
No, we've got redistricting coming up. That's something we've got to take care of, and it's got to be done by March 1st of next year.
And I anticipate DeSoto County will get another Senate and possibly 2 House seats.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And when will we start working on that?
Well, I'm not on that committee, but they don't have the final precinct numbers in. So as soon as they get the precinct numbers, I imagine they'll be meeting.
Are you on the committee for the study of personal income tax?
No, sir.
Is there a committee?
There will be. Senator Harkins is going to be having some hearings this summer.
It's not summer yet, but we're getting close.
We're getting there.
You think we could come together on that one? And
I believe we can. Conceptually, I like the idea of kind of a phase-in, but I think we need to take a look at the impact because we're talking about $2 billion. Where's it going to come? Where are we going to make it up?
So if there is a need for a special session, it points more to medical marijuana than personal income tax and certainly from the initiative process?
That would be my opinion, yes, sir.
The initiative process needs to be taken care of, but you feel like we could do that during the regular session?
Yes, sir. It needs to be taken care of, but as soon as the people can vote on it would be November of 2022.
Yeah. So, what would you like to see happen with the initiative process, just personally?
I think it probably needs to be tightened up a little bit. This goes back years. I commented a number of times on it didn't make sense for us to have a process that said we had to get 5 congressional district signatures, and when we only had 4 congressional seats.
I don't know how we do this, but in some ways it needs to be more disclosure for the people who are voting these things to know what the amenities are and what the consequences are.
And who's behind it, because there are actually companies that advertise for X millions of dollars. We'll get it on the ballot and we'll get it passed.
And that's just becoming more and more apparent every single initiative that comes up.
That does. And at the same time, the legislation needs to start paying more attention to the citizens.
Look, that was most informative. I thank you for coming in.
Welcome. Thank you.
Glad you're doing well, and hope everybody else is up in the DeSoto and Marshall County areas. Kevin Blackwell, Senator from District 19. He is with the Medicaid chairman.